Hello, my name is Andre, and today I will present Khaled's family case plan developed by me. Khaled and his family recently arrived here in Australia, fleeing from a terrible situation in Syria. They need the support of a case manager, which happens to be me, to help them to resettle and start life here. So let me give you an overview of what will be covered in this presentation. First, I will share a bit about Khaled's family and their background. Then I'll talk about his vision for the future now they are here in Australia. And based on the vision, I will outline the needs and strengths that identified to help the family to achieve their goals. I will also talk about our approach to this case and some of the ethical and professional principles I use to navigate through it. I will also share a bit about the potential risks that could arise from working with the family. And finally, I'll wrap up by sharing some of my own insights about what I've learned from work on this case. All right, let's talk a bit about the family's background. Khaled was a 25-year-old nurse living in Damascus with his newlywed wife, Jomana, when the Syrian civil war broke out in 2011. He was working at a major hospital at the time. The war changed their lives completely. Khaled saw a lot of violence against protesters of the Syrian regime and decided to go against it, moving to a rebel town called Madaya, where he provided medical care to victims of the conflict for 3 years. During this time, their daughter Aya was born in 2012. Eventually, Madaya came under siege, which caused a humanitarian crisis where innocent civilians, including children, were starved to death. Khaled spoke out against it and released video of the atrocity, which gained worldwide attention and put his life in danger as well. An Australian journalist was impressed by Khaled's courage and humanitarian efforts and helped him to flee from the war to start a new life in Australia with his wife and daughter. Now that Khaled is here, he has the following vision for his future and family: build a new and safe future for his family in Australia, safe and away from war. That involves finding and keeping the basic needs such as accommodation, health, income support, employment, and education for him and his family. This also involves keeping in contact with his family and friends in Syria and building new relationships and networks in Australia. Based on that vision, an initial assessment was done in search for needs and also strengths of the family. And these are the needs found after the first assessment. There is need of accommodation, of course, financial needs to help with the family with the basic expenses, communication needs, which implies the help of a bilingual interpreter. There is also health needs, including access to physicians and other health-related services. There is mobility needs, because they need to move between places while they are here in Australia. There is also education needs, especially regarding learning English and professional skills, and also social needs, which means keeping contact with his family and friends and trying to make new relationships while they are here, expanding the network support in Australia. About the family strengths, here are some of them I identified within Khaled's family. I will not read through them because of the short time of this presentation. However, I try to focus on the interpersonal and professional strengths, in which will be explored a means of support to cope with the difficulties of the resettlement and to improve their resilience and self-determination. Now, talking a bit about how I approach this case, I base my approach on use the model of case management found in Chenoweth McCullough's book, which explicitly shows the phase that need to be gone through to achieve change. This phase first involves the initial intake and engagement with the family, followed by data collection of the situation and assessment of the needs and strengths. After that comes the planning phase of the case, where it specifies objectives, strategies, and how, who, and when the tasks will be done. After that, there is the intervention phase, that is a direct application of the plan. And at last, there is the evaluation phase, where if everything is good, it's possible to disengage the relationship and terminate the intervention. Based on that model, I came up with a plan that works in 5 steps. The first step is establish an initial rapport and provide immediate support in order to bring safety to them. The second step involves assessing the needs and strengths of the family and planning the next steps in collaboration with the family. With this plan in hand, we move into the third step, carrying out the plan vision, where I need to link the family with services and organizations that can provide support, advocate for them, and monitor the family and the process situation when necessary. The fourth step is a natural evolution of the previous steps, where the family knows better where they are and feel more confident and safe So the focus should be on improving English proficiency, professional skills, and building new relationships and networks with the community surrounding them. The last step is the ultimate goal of the care plan, which envisions the family independence. Despite the step-by-step nature of my plan, I am aware that in reality, things are always moving and constantly changing. And due to this dynamic nature of life, my case plan needs also to be flexible, which means make corrections and adjustments along the way when necessary. As seen in this slide, the spiral movement of the change process reflects the necessity of coming back to previous phases to clarification and eventual modifications. To make this happen, it's also necessary to build an effective relationship with the family. I found that an ideal relationship must involve the five principles of the trauma-informed practice. In other words, I must cultivate an environment where it's safe for the family and me as well, where the family can choose on their own path and goals because the family is the expert in their own problem. Third, we need to collaborate with each other, which implies a more equal power share between me and the family. I also must cultivate trust, which implies clear communication, consistency of action and tasks, and respect of boundaries. Lastly, I must focus on the family's empowerment, emphasizing their strengths and skills, not on their problems and deficiencies. And here is a summary of my care plan. Initially, my idea is to address basic needs such as accommodation, income support, and health services, which is reflected as a short-term goals of my plan. After that, the education and skills development are the next steps and comprise the short to mid-term goals of the plan. In this stage, I also count with the support for their family and friends to help them in their process. The long-term goal of the plan envisions the family feeling more confident in making their own choices with stable jobs, more independence, and improved social and professional connections here in Australia. For a more detailed aspects of my plan, please refer to the Word document attached to this presentation. Now, talking a bit about the theoretical influence that underpinning my approach, I use mainly the strengths-based practice, which is a very positive approach because it focuses on empowering people and what's positive in their lives. There is also the cultural safety framework, which I think is essential because they are not Australians and have different values and beliefs from me. This framework as well informs the case manager to create a culturally safe environment to build a more trustful relationships and consider the unique situation and identities as well. Lastly, there is the trauma-informed approach, which I think is essential to work in this case once the family came from traumatic experience of war, which can impact negatively in the resettlement process. So when it comes to the ethical and professional principles that guide my approach, I believe these are the essential principles that apply not only to this case, but to any work in the social field. These principles include respect for the persons, social justice, and professional integrity, as defined in our code of ethics. There is also duty of care, clear boundaries, consent, respect for confidentiality, and clear communication. As I said before, there, there is also the principle for cultural safety, especially important in this case. And just noting, it's also clear that any violation to these principles can potentially lead to ethical issues. About the risks, here are some of the potential ones that could arise while I work on this case. I divide them into organizational risks and family risks. While I won't read them all due to time constraints of this presentation, it's essential for the case manager to be aware of these risks and develop strategies to manage them effectively and follow ethical guides and standards of the professional. So, what were the insights I have gained from working this case? First, I have felt a great deal of empathy for the refugees and their situation, and I'll be honest, I didn't know much about it before this study. Secondly, I've learned that positive change is achievable even in the hard situation, but it also requires hard work, knowledge, and cooperation from all the people involved. Thirdly, I've come to appreciate the importance and understand the theories and practice of case management in order to improve the quality and efficacy of my work. And finally, I've learned about the importance of ethical and professional principles when it comes to dealing with challenging cases. If professionals don't take them into account, they could run into all sorts of problems and dilemmas. Thank you for watching. I hope you like it. See you next time.